Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. A warm welcome to everyone joining across the globe for this virtual fireside chat between TCS, S&P, and ams OSRAM about their accelerated business transformation with harmonized finance processes post-merger. Thank you for taking out time to join us today. My name is Priya. I manage the marketing and the communications for the JPAC and Middle East region based in Singapore for S&P. And I'm also the moderator for today's session. This session is being recorded, and the excerpts from this will be made available on demand after the session. All attendees are in listen-only mode. The session is expected to be for about an hour, including the question and answers that we will take all together at the end. The audience can submit their questions through the questions panel or the chat bar anytime during the session. For any questions after the session, feel free to reach out to our contact details displayed here. In today's session, we will introduce the purpose of the strategic partnership between S&P and TCS and how we help end customers within the SAP ecosystem further deep dive into how we are addressing the current market developments and how our business transformation and software-based approach addresses and tackles the barriers that many companies currently face as they take their system landscape to the next level. And finally, we get exciting insights from ams OSRAM, Dennis and Ralf about their project and how they managed to go live literally over a weekend. I'm introducing the stellar panelists for today's fireside chat. Dialing in from Europe, we have Parthiv, Shah, Global Head Sales and Solutions, Go-to-Market and Sub-Practice for TCS. We have Lutz Lambrecht, Global Vice President, Partner Management for S&P. We have Dennis, the Business Lead Move-in Integration Program for ams OSRAM, and Ralf for IT Special Projects at ams OSRAM. Without further ado, I really want to thank all the panelists for combining their capabilities and sharing their thoughts and strategies for the content development of this event. Over to you, Parthiv. We would like to hear from you.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. My name is Parthiv. I head the Global SAP Solutions function in TCS. As part of this, what I do is I work with customers, advising them and enabling them in their digital transformation journeys, define architecture, technology architectures using S/4HANA as a digital core, and of course, adopting cloud to accelerate the innovation that they need to differentiate businesses. If we look at the trends that we definitely see in these discussions with our customers and organizations, 2 or 3 things very uniquely stand out. The first is obviously the convergence of industry domains as we move into a digital transformation powered era. The pandemic has only accelerated the need that the CXOs have towards the time to value realization. Speed is of essence for them to differentiate themselves in the marketplace. We believe that digital transformation-led business shifts will essentially pan over 3 horizons. The first horizon is, of course, that organizations will need a digital core on which they can innovate. The second is a platform which helps them to create differentiation for their businesses on top of a digital core. And the third, of course, is that you need to create a purposeful ecosystem, an ecosystem which grows in synergies for the entire ecosystem, deriving more value for the shareholders. At TCS, what we've done is created a framework under the umbrella of our IP and Enterprise Navigator, which embeds and integrates assessing customers' future business capability needs from an industry point of view, mapping it to potential cloud-led architectures, and then using different IP around Crystallus and Convert Core, which enable customers to adopt and consume S/4HANA-led technologies for accelerated business outcomes and value realization. Let me talk a bit about Convert Core, which is an IP that TCS leverages to help customers use a conversion-based approach towards adopting S/4HANA. A lot of customers believe that they need a modular approach As I mentioned, speed is of essence for them. They want to make sure that they have a platform ready on which they can innovate on an incremental basis, minimizing the risk and increasing the ability to innovate. The Convert Core offering helps customers in this journey with this modular approach, offering them a rapid assessment, defining a roadmap to this conversion in a very efficient way. A very interesting approach towards this is the selective data transition approach, where the customers believe that they would like to take really that data which is valuable and not the entire legacy of data towards the new platform. When we looked at this, we believe that the combination of TCS's IP and Convert Core combined with SNP's software solutions created, of course, combined with our collective knowledge and contextual knowledge of customers, created a very uniquely differentiated value proposition for our customers. With this intent, we created a very strategic partnership. In this partnership, we've already worked with multiple customers across semiconductors, high tech, life sciences, as well as metals and mining customers across the world. We've delivered value for customers. For a life science customer, we help them to carve out a part of their business unit. For a metals and mining customer, we actually help them to move to the cloud. We actually reduced the time that they took to less than 48 hours and made sure that it was extremely reliable and resilient for them as they made the transition. I would like to invite Lutz to add to this and kick off the event.
Yeah, thank you, Parthiv. Let me start with thanking TCS for the partnership and thanking OSRAM for the trust in our capabilities and for sharing their experience here today. The partnership, I'd say, is a strategic one. It's building on long-term cooperation at customers like Novartis, OSRAM, South 32, and many others, and we will be announcing some other major joint customers in the coming weeks. TCS was the fastest partner that we have that moved from silver to gold in less than 6 months, and we are looking to moving this up fast in the future. So I think it's a perfect fit. You talked about the opportunities, the problems. Now, combining our competence of data management and data transformation with TCS competence in SAP consulting and industry know-how, that combined with a global delivery capabilities, I think is a really good match. Especially in the times that we're going through right now, looking at COVID, at broken supply chains, uncertainty in the market, having a reliable partner is absolutely key. But the good thing is that we have these times of change, disruption. I think there's also a lot of opportunity. The actual situation, I think, is almost like a booster for digitalization. And digitalization at the end of the day means also transformation. And but the problem is that these projects, transformation projects, are among the greatest challenges that you will face by business and the IT departments. So while they offer a lot of opportunities, you have the whole risk. But I believe at the end of the day that those who are open to disruptive change in business and change in thought models, they will be the ones that are more agile in the future, and they will gain a competitive advantage. But still, there's many companies that are shying away from such projects, fall back and just take the easy way, like a brownfield upgrade. One of the reasons why they do this, my experience, is the amount of change that is required in an organization. You'll face change in the business model. The entire value chain of the business is affected. You need change in mind. Unfortunately, that's probably the hardest and something we cannot help you with. But we can help you in other areas. For us, I think most important is the corresponding change in IT and in all areas of data. And that's where we can definitely help you. So data transformation is absolutely essential in any transformation project, whether it's a merge, whether it's a carve, whether you go into the cloud, upgrade, or even combination of all of the above. I've been an SAP consultant myself for SD and later project manager. I did the first project was a big merge of 3 companies, then a carve out, then a merge, then an upgrade. And whenever we had a problem, I would say 3 out of 4 times it was due to data. And Gartner has many studies on that. Let's say, and what they recommend at the end of the day in all these studies is you should prepare a project thoroughly. You should analyze what you have in there. You should plan it, and you should test. And this is exactly where our software comes in. This is exactly what we do. We analyze, we test, and we support the partners here. So while the ERP system change is vital for the success of the project, without the right information flowing through the system, your project will definitely fail. Now, this is where we come in, and where we want to support our partners, and that's where we work together with our partners. It's primarily 3 areas. First is obviously winning a customer and convincing the customer to pick the right solution up front. It's to deliver better and make sure the project is successful for the customer, and allowing for innovation with and for our customers. Now how do we do that? Sorry. Winning new customers is really, we can support our partner during the sales cycle. We have this fact-based analysis, and I would say most comprehensive analysis that's available, that provides insight that you can simulate right on time. You can test out things. You see the results right away. So it helps you even to shape an RFP. It helps you to articulate a value proposition at a very early stage, and qualify an opportunity just much better. And together with TCS, with their knowledge of SAP and the processes, the industries, this is a true differentiator, and helps us winning, and helps the customer to do the right thing. You talked about time to value. That's something we can really accelerate by using the software. What I like particularly about TCS, they have this consultative approach when they go in. They don't come in with a fixed idea. This is what you have to do. And our software helps them to provide different options, whether you do multiple projects in one, or whether you want a wave-based approach, or whether you want to go green or brown or blue or anything in between. It's all possible. So we can provide all the options, and we can offer things that others cannot offer, like enhanced near zero downtime, the real-time analysis, selective approach you've been talking about, combined with taking over historical data, just to name a few. Now, after you won the project, you need to deliver, and this is where we bring in the solution, and combined with the strength of the consultants. We're using transformation factories around the world that do nothing else but data transformation, and we integrate that and enhance the partner delivery. We're using we call it mission control, which is guided procedures with multiple QA steps to do the transformation at the end. And so at the end of the day, we have a 100% success rate we're really proud of, and risk reduction is something I talked about is essential. Last but not least, the topic of innovation. I mean, if you think, how often do you do a major upgrade within your company? The big upgrades, MySAP, S4HANA, etc. It's probably every 10 to 15 years. And if you don't use that to innovate, in my opinion, you're missing a big chance. This is for every CIO in the company. It's probably once or twice in a lifetime chance to do something big, to really innovate. And so together we can identify the right areas for innovation. We allow you to keep what's working well, and to innovate what doesn't work well. This is let's say our core message is keep the best, transform the rest. And so it allows you, or enables you to innovate. But I don't want to talk theoretically about it. I'd rather allow for more time with our joint customer OSRAM, with whom we've delivered the joint project successfully and hopefully many more in the future. Pia, back to you, and then over to our colleagues from OSRAM.
Awesome. Thank you for the insights, Parthiv and Lutz. And yes, we can't wait to hear from Dennis and Ralf from ams OSRAM. For me, it was a very interesting convergence of bringing the business track and the IT track together with the two of you, Dennis and Ralf. So it's very intriguing. We would love to hear from you, your role in this whole project, the triggers, the challenges, etc., that you faced along. So maybe I will leave it to you guys to introduce yourselves, and I would probably like to start with Dennis, the first one coming for you from the business perspective and also from IT perspective. What was the key buyer and seller entities intents in this M&A transformation, and what were the challenges did you encounter in the project to address them? Between AMS and OSRAM, it's a lot about data, people, and many other things. So over to you, Dennis.
Yeah, thank you very much, Priya. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Also from our side, from AMS OSRAM, thanks for having us in this webinar, and thanks for allowing us an opportunity to share our experience with the broader group. When we look at the merger, apologies, for AMS OSRAM, then basically our key challenge is that we want to really quickly focus on integrating the two companies and making sure that we work together as one team moving forward. So one of the challenges we had and one of the considerations we had is we wanted to work on the core integration of our systems and processes, but at the same time we have some challenges to make sure that some baseline assumptions are the same. And one of them is the fiscal year definition. AMS had a fiscal year definition following the Gregorian calendar of January to December, where OSRAM was following the calendar October to September. So different fiscal years, different definitions, which creates quite a lot of complexity in terms of bringing the group financials together. So one of our core focuses was to early on in the integration, harmonize the calendar so that we could really make sure we operate as one company on one cadence. So one of the biggest challenges we had there is also resource requirements and working on integration while also working on this fiscal year change. So that was one of the biggest challenges from a different perspective. Also, what we would look at is within AMS OSRAM, we have very little knowledge on a fiscal year change type of system change within the company. So that's where our partners really came in with their experience in having it done at the other customers before, so that we could really tap in their experience, bring in our landscape-specific topics, business-specific topics, so that we could make the project work together.
Awesome. So just indulge us a bit amongst the different initiatives you undertook. We understand that financial year alignment was one of the critical tasks needed by business. Can you describe more on the business benefits achieved from the financial year alignment and what approaches did you consider?
Yes. So what we did is one of the things that we did is the fiscal year alignment was a critical task, like I was saying before, because it is one of the core stepping stones to bring the company together also from a financial perspective. We, as AMS OSRAM, were reporting on different cadences to the outside world and to investors and on the stock markets. So one of the crucial topics was to really achieve that as of the year 2022, we would report as one combined company, AMS OSRAM, towards the market and towards investors, and that it's a consistent approach for the group financials. Now, when you look at the financial reporting to the outside world, then obviously every time you do reporting to the outside world, it also means that every time you publish numbers, there's an audit related to it from the audit companies. So one of the other benefits is that we then now have also a joint audit on one group financial statements instead of having to have two audits and go through two audits because we had to publish two times, the OSRAM group standalone and the AMS group including OSRAM. So it also gives us a simplified landscape in the sense that the whole team across the globe, every entity around the globe now works on the same calendar. Everybody closes the books at the same time. We work on the same period definitions as of 2022, and we close the year at the same time across the whole group. Now, in terms of approaches that we considered, then basically what we mainly looked at is two high-level considerations. One is a sequential approach. So if you look at the SAP changes that we had to do in our system landscape, then we had to do a harmonization of the period definitions and when a fiscal year ends in the system and when a fiscal year starts. So that's basically called a shortened fiscal year implementation from a technical perspective. And the second element we were doing is to do a fiscal year -1 database change to really make sure that as of 2022, the system definition of the fiscal year is also 2022 and is aligned with the Gregorian calendar. So we had actually two options we looked at. One is basically do the shortened fiscal year first, and then after that do the fiscal year -1 database change, or to do it at the same time in a weekend, still sequential, but at the same time in a very short condensed period. And actually in the end we chose to do the latter, so that we could buy time and not have 2 times a go live, 2 times a testing phase, and that we could really combine everything in one approach.
Great, that makes a lot of sense actually. So now, Dennis, what was the final impact from your perspective the transition had on data, analytics, compliance, and most importantly, what impact did it have on the people at AMS and OSRAM?
Yeah, I would say the most important thing for us is that we now, as an AMS OSRAM group, work together on a harmonized fiscal year definition. So like I said, all our teams around the globe that are closing the books are now working on one cadence. We have one calendar across the group everywhere in the world, regardless which entity you look at. And we have then also a consistent system-based approach, where also there we close the books at the same time and we do all the month-end closing activities at the same time. Consolidate the ERP data then also in the consolidation system and close everything on a harmonized calendar basis. I think the other thing from a people and AMS perspective, I think it also brings our people much more together, because you were basically having the old closing schedule of OSRAM, the old closing of AMS, and everyone was doing it on their own cadence and in their own way. Now you basically see that everyone is doing it more in a harmonized fashion at the same time, so that basically also the colleagues can support each other between the two former groups much stronger, and that we are really growing together as a consequence of doing things in the same manner, in the same cadence, and at the same time. So it really also supported us in coming together as a company and having our people really working together as one company instead of two standalones that were doing their independent tasks before, and which we then brought together in a consolidation system. So I would say also growing together and supporting the ambition of bringing the company cultures together. This was also an important project to support that ambition.
Very interesting. Thank you. So I would just like to dive in with Ralf here, that with the combined entity of AMS and OSRAM, we understand that you had multiple ERPs based on business units, geographies, and different stakeholders who needed their systems to work right away. What strategy did you follow to involve all the entities and align this fiscal year across ERPs in this short period? Ralf.
Thank you, Priya. Also, welcome from my side. Good morning, good afternoon to everyone. Priya, indeed, we have several ERP systems and also related BWs in our landscape. And as Dennis mentioned before, many harmonization activities ongoing in order to combine the two companies. So what was key is that we looked at each of these ERP systems individually before we started the project, in order to come up with an approach and a plan on what to do with the different systems. As a result of this, we decided actually to go for a workaround for some smaller ERPs for several reasons. And for our two major ERP systems, we decided to do the fiscal year change, but also with a different approach. Dennis mentioned the two dimensions of the activity. One time to enable this short fiscal year in terms of changing the fiscal year definition in the system. And the other dimension is this counter reset, as we call it, the fiscal year -1, that is required because this short fiscal year increases the fiscal year counter in the SAP system and makes it not consistent anymore with the calendar definition. So for the two major ERP systems, we decided for one, we did it together in one go. I think Dennis already explained this. And for the other system, we decided to do only, first of all, in the first step, to do the fiscal year variant change, and the counter reset we put on hold, and we plan to do it next year. Yeah? By the way, also together with TCS and S&P, and in order to stretch a bit the timeline there. Also, there are also many other projects ongoing in the same system environment. So what I want to say is it was key to really look at each system individually and really to make also individual plans, because there was no one fit all for in our case. And what is also crucial in terms of approach for the whole project is that we needed to really align closely with all other ongoing projects. And hence we needed to define together with the other projects and align on freeze times, on test phases, on go live dates, in order to really make it fit from an overall perspective in our company.
I appreciate there are lots of moving parts to it, as you explained. So S&P and TCS together are collaborating as partners, right, on working with companies to create a unique competitive advantage whilst enabling the measurable business outcomes. So we collaborated for this M&A transformation through your post-merger integration. How do you think TCS and S&P supported you to implement this harmonization and multiple moving parts and the story around it?
Well, it starts with that they brought in expertise and experience in the topic. I think Dennis mentioned in the beginning that a fiscal year change is nothing you do often in your company, and hence internally in our company we had no own experience with such an initiative. So it was good to have a partner who did this already with other customers and could consult us on what is the right approach and the right plan to do so. Both suppliers also brought in some own skills, some own software, especially for the analysis and in the SAP environment in order to identify the right technical approach, but also later to do this database conversion, which was more on the S&P side, in order to support this. Both suppliers acted as a team due to their partnership. So that was certainly also a benefit for us, so that we could treat them as one common supplier, which is always easier than to manage multiple suppliers or to coordinate multiple suppliers. And last but not least, it was the TCS S&P team who convinced us to go with this parallel approach, meaning to do the short fiscal year setup in SAP and the counter reset in one weekend, in one go live, which is a huge benefit for us in the system where we did it, because we save additional interruption for other projects. So and of course the team of TCS and S&P supported us through all the life cycle of the project, helped us with some documentation, and were a good partner to support all phases in the project.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for the feedback. So I'm looking at also the engagements coming from the audience and questions around it. So one of the very relevant topic around data management transformation, business transformation, is the office of the CFO, as some of us call it. So maybe Dennis, you want to take this one up, that we understand the CFO's requirements in terms of timelines were short, and this project needed to be executed along with multiple other ongoing transformations in the organization. So can you share your views at how TCS and S&P, from your perspective as a team, supported these objectives, business objectives, and how are the teams able to drive this to a success? Dennis.
Yes, of course. Thank you. So I think one of the key topics that I would raise as the first one to your question, Priya, would be that TCS and S&P as partners really convinced us to do the approach to do the fiscal year change as well as the database change in one weekend. Initially, we were really looking at a parallel approach and doing it at 2 moments in time, which gave us quite a struggle from the tight timelines we have internally on working also on the integration. So when basically our partners, TCS and S&P, came up with this recommendation that it would be possible to do it sequentially, but to do it in one and the same weekend, then we were obviously keen and interested to learn more and to work together with the team to work towards this solution. So this was really a proposal from the TCS S&P side to do it in this way. And in the end, we were really happy that we chose this direction, because it gave us an opportunity to get the fiscal year harmonization behind us and get it implemented, so that we could really focus on our core integration of the company and work on our ERP integration. So this is really an important milestone to achieve. When you look at the throughput time that we were looking at initially at the beginning of the project in terms of cutover, this was actually spanning a little bit more than a weekend. And you can imagine, if you put a operative SAP system down for longer than a weekend, with factory interaction, with shipments going out to customers, goods not being able to be issued to the manufacturing sites, that's quite a critical approach to get the downtime to a minimum possible. So what we really also did together with the TCS and S&P team and our internal IT team is really focus relentlessly on reducing the throughput time, looking at opportunities, how we can do things different, how can we change the approach to even minimize the downtime even more, which I think in the end worked out really well together with our partners and with the IT team, where we managed to actually reduce the downtime to do it within the weekend and to do it in less than 48 hours, which I think is a really great achievement from the joint team.
Great. I think the credit also goes to you to take this initiative in the midst of all that was going on. So yeah, picking up from on the weekend downtime, I think that's a topic that everyone wants some specifics around. So Ralf, if you can share, what was the extent and duration of business disruption ams OSRAM faced during downtime?
Yeah, the downtime overall was in the end 46 hours. Yeah, as Dennis already mentioned, you can imagine that this has a strong impact to our business, mainly to production and supply chain. And yeah, maybe also to share a little bit the way our journey was, that we had originally planned a downtime in the range of 60 hours. And you can imagine the strong pushback from the business. So we had several iterations. And here also, thanks to our partners, we could come up with some tweaking and some changing in the technical approach. We were turning every stone and in order to see how we can reduce this downtime. In order to accommodate our business better. We also did squeezed in an additional test into our project plan, even though our timeline was very short, in order to see whether this changed approach and this changed technical setting will have a positive impact to the downtime. But in the end, we came up with the 46 hours, and maybe also for the audience to explain, this 46 hours is mainly due to this database conversion. This is the driver of this long downtime. But if you want to change this fiscal year counter, then you have no way around it. But in the end, we were very happy that we could reduce it to the 46 hours. The 46 hour, by the way, it also included some short-term the fixing of some issues that came up during the cutover, so that we were able to give the system back after 46 hours to the business. And I can also say that our cutover, I believe, was well planned and was well supported by our partners. And here again, a thank you to the both teams. 46 hours, you can imagine, we needed to work in night shifts and really in hours, early hours, late hours, weekend work. It was a weekend, but actually the whole team, internally, but also from both partners, we're really doing a great job to support this cutover activities.
Awesome, great. So, I mean, if I can dive back with Dennis here, what are the learnings from this transformation? What approach would you recommend to other organizations from your experience?
Yes, thank you. I would say really the key learning from our side is that really this approach of doing it in parallel within the same weekend is really a key learning we took away from this project, which I think is really unique and also something that let's say other companies can really benefit from repeating this approach, because we really proved that it is possible, and we really were skeptical in the beginning, honestly, from a technical perspective, that it would really work out well. But I think we proved now as ams OSRAM together with our partners TCS and S&P that it is possible to do it in one weekend. So I think that's really one major takeaway from us in the project as a joint success across all of us, for all I think involved. I would say the other side is also that the key learning, and Ralf will definitely recognize what I'm saying here, is that a lot of people would say you do a shortened fiscal year and you do a database change in your SAP system, so it's really an IT project. And that's not really true. When you look at how much business involvement we have and how much business people we had involved in the testing and validating the approach, really making sure that everything is really well tested out, and that we really make sure the outcome is in line with what we were expecting. That it's not just an IT project. You also need intense cooperation and communication with your business stakeholders. And I think a lot of people might also not realize that also our finance organization has done and is still doing actually a lot of legwork on the background to also harmonize the fiscal year definitions from a finance perspective. So it's not just an IT topic to harmonize the calendar. Yes, it's a large part and it's one of the complex parts, but also our finance teams are doing also a lot of work to make sure that the publication locally is in line with the group financial calendars, because we're harmonizing each and every country towards the same calendar as well. So also there we have to do a shortened fiscal year reporting to the local authorities, or a 15-month period reporting to the local authorities, to really make sure that the whole cadence of the countries and the group is on the fiscal year definition and the calendar year definition within 2022. So there's a lot of business involvement as well, not just an IT project.
Absolutely, great. Thank you so much, Dennis and Ralf, for sharing your critical insights and your experience and the journey. Clearly, business agility and continuity is on top of everyone's mind in this digital first worlds. So we have some questions coming up now. We can start already. So maybe the first one goes to Parthiv. Can you comment on that first step that organizations should consider to kickstart any business or IT transformation?
Yeah, sure, Priya. I think, among the first things that most customers and organizations will want to look at is to make sure that the business continuity is ensured. And along with that, they need to make sure that they have assessed every dimension of dependencies that they have for programs like this. Data, of course, is at the center of all these assessments. Data is vital for business continuity. And the key aspect is to make sure that there is a clear strategy to understand and to define what data one needs to bring into the new systems. That's the first thing. The second, of course, is to make sure that there is enough planning to ensure business continuity. The downtime is a critical aspect, and to manage this downtime through proof of concepts, through mock cutovers is critical. Of course, one needs to make sure there is a right selection of tools. We worked with S&P using their tools, Crystal Vision and others, and that was critical to make sure that we were able to manage the movement of a significant amount of database size. I think apart from all of these, the important thing is to work obviously as a team, to be very open, to be able to plan and also have some contingencies for sure for surprises that come up. I think I can add one more thing maybe, and that is data visualization and generally an understanding of the IT landscape and the dependencies, as Dennis mentioned, with a number of other projects and programs that are moving. You don't want impact on those projects and programs because they provide a certain amount of momentum for business to carry on. So I would say that that's a collection of a number of topics that I summarized.
Great insights here. So I'm just combining few questions here and topics. So for Lutz, the audience understands that SNP can combine multiple projects into a single go live. So can you please elaborate on that? What are the typical kinds and what does it mean to the customers and partners?
Well, through the technology that we have, we always have the chance to, well, let me start in a different way. If you do, for example, an S/4HANA upgrade, you have to do many things. You have new functionality that needs to be implemented. You need a GL conversion. You need business partner implementation. You need a Unicode upgrade. You might want to move into the cloud at the same time. You need to archive data. These are can be all seen as separate projects, and you can do the projects in a sequence. I'll give you one example, which we just finished, was a customer that was planning 2 years to do that upgrade with 5 separate projects, and we came in and we managed to combine these all into one single project, only 3 test runs, but only for this one project instead of 5 times 3 test runs, and so we cut it down from 24 to 6 months, which was obviously good for the internal team on their side, because we could free them up for another 18 months. We took the risk down of having 5 separate projects in one project. So you have the full flexibility. You can do that together. You can do it wave-based. It's just the flexibility that we offer, and which brought a huge benefit to this project.
Awesome. Essentially, the simultaneous business and technical implementation is a reality today, and linking it back to the context of Dennis and Ralf, who mentioned about the sequential process. I mean, that's not a priority. We can just collapse it all in one. So awesome. Now, I think we're back, Dennis, on your topic, on your comment on the role of IT. So can you further comment on it? What is the role of IT in such business-driven events from your experience?
Yes, of course. Thank you. I would say there is no standalone IT project that just IT runs standalone, nor does the business, right? I mean, nowadays, all of the business processes are supported by tools or applications, because everything is supported by tools and applications nowadays, and everything is linked to an application or a tool. So I would say anything you do on the tool side or anything you do on your business processes where you want to make a change, then it's always a collaboration between the business and IT teams that have to work together to achieve the common goal of the improvement, the transformation that you're trying to achieve. So for me, that's one of the most important topics to emphasize, that it's, in my view, always, it goes hand in hand, and it's always a very strong partnership between the business and IT that have to strongly work together. And I think that's also what we see at the ams OSRAM integration, the specific project we talk about today, but also the ongoing projects that we still have to bring the joint company together. For me, the collaboration between the business and IT is crucial. We need to work together as one team, and it's not them in IT and us in the business. It's one team, and we have to work together to make it a success. If we don't work together in a collaborative way, then it will not be a success. So that joint cooperation is crucially important.
Great. So we have one question for Ralf. What were some of the critical considerations from IT SAP landscape readiness perspective in your view? Ralf?
Yes, I think one learning we had in our project is that a good analysis of the SAP system and the BW, not to forget, in scope is really crucial. For the fiscal year adjustments, there is no standard pattern that you just change it, and every SAP system is different anyway. And so it's really crucial to have a good understanding on the specifics of the SAP system in order then to make a good plan. Not to fall into the trap to start the project and then to have the learnings only on the way, and then to need to change your plan and your technical approach all the time. And in order to find the right technical approach and to support it later on, it's also important to have the right skills, the right experiences. We touched this before, and also the right tools. Yeah? Just to give you an example, we needed to find out in all our coding that we had that has grown over the years, where the fiscal year is relevant in it, and where we need to make a change. And for this, for instance, we had some in the end some tool that was brought in order to identify the right places in the system that we need to look at and we need to adjust. I also want to maybe mention that to have in our case, we worked with Sandbox systems, and that was very beneficial in order to have less impact on other ongoing projects, on parallel projects, and last but not least, also less impact on the normal operations. But if you also consider to work with Sandbox systems, you must also think of a lead time, to organize the Sandbox system, to set it up, to bring the right data in, and so on. So this must not be forgotten when you plan a project of this kind.
It's great that you mentioned, because we do have some topic around that. How critical was it to have that Sandbox environment for such a large project?
Well, as I said, and I can only underline, for in our case, we had a lot of benefit from it. We even worked with 2 Sandbox for the SAP system in order to accommodate this parallel approach that we mentioned several times. We had another Sandbox for the related BW system, and this allowed us to work in our project kind of independent to other projects and to the real productive environment, and only have at a rather late point of time, we moved with our changes into the test system and into the productive system. This still requires a close link to the real productive environment, refreshes of our data, and also a close alignment with other projects that bring in the same point of time, bring in changes into the productive environment that are maybe not reflected yet in your Sandbox environment. And so you need to really be transparent to each other. And we installed a close alignment, regular alignment meetings with the other projects in order to make sure that we know about the changes that other projects bring in and vice versa, in order to make sure that when we come out from the Sandbox system into the productive environment again, that we don't have bad surprises, but everything fits to it. But I can only again repeat, to have the Sandbox helped us in many aspects, especially to do the project in such a short time frame.
Okay, we have, I think, just looking at the time, we have just time for about another question maybe. How high was the degree of custom development in this project, causing adjustments to your standards?
Well,
any of you can take it.
Yeah.
Well,
maybe I cannot give you a number, but I can say, yes, we have kind of a grown custom coding in our system. And so this was a significant part of our project to A, identify all these codings, and B, then also to make the appropriate adjustments to it. And that this is also an aspect that must not be underestimated in such kind of a project.
Okay, noted. So I think that's all we have time for today. So really appreciate everyone joining in, the audience, for your time and interest. And Parthiv, Lutz, and of course, Dennis and Ralf, a great outcome, great success of this project. And we have the contact details displayed. The audience should feel free to get in touch with us for any further questions, insights on this project, or otherwise on our partnership. Thank you for your time. Have a great rest of the day and the week ahead. Take care. Stay healthy.